Here is Jacob, who, I want to emphasize, looks nothing like a minion. Jacob has been chosen by God, but he's not behaving much like somebody who's chosen by God is supposed to behave. I mean, for starters, he decided to sell his brother a bowl of soup that cost £250,000. And then he tricked his own father into blessing him when his dad was actually trying to bless his brother Esau. This is not the way children of God are supposed to behave. But you know, that's kind of the point of the story. You see, God doesn't choose people who've been good, because if he did, he wouldn't be able to bless anyone, because we've all broken his rules. So instead of choosing people who are good, God chooses people who've been bad but believe in him. And Jacob does. And as a result, God gives him good things in spite of the fact that Jacob's been bad. And that's what we call grace. Now Jacob, he's in a bit of trouble. So he decides this is perfect time to go on holiday. And he goes on holiday to see his uncle Laban. Now, God may choose us even though we've been bad, but that doesn't mean he wants us to carry on doing bad things. And God's going to be teaching Jacob a few things through Laban that might make him change his ways. The lessons start when Jacob has to work for 7 years just to marry Laban's daughter, Rachel. And then, when he thinks he's married her, it turns out that Laban has tricked him and he's actually married her sister, Leah. You know, that's kind of like Jacob tricking his dad into thinking he was blessing Esau when in fact he was blessing him. Eventually, Rachel does get married to Jacob, but only after Jacob has worked for another 7 years. And after 14 years, Jacob thinks to himself, okay, maybe it's time to go home. I'll take me, my 2 wives, and the 12 sons that God has blessed me with, and we'll head back to see if my brother Esau has finally calmed down. Now, just as he's about to go, along comes Laban and says, what's this? Where do you think you're going? I can't have you leaving. I've discovered that because you've been here, God has really blessed me. I've got more sheep, I've got more camels, I've got a lot more grandchildren, and as a result, please stay here so that God can carry on blessing me. Just name your price. Okay, says Jacob. Well, over the last 14 years, I've spent a lot of time with your sheep. And I've noticed that while some of your sheep are nice and white and fluffy, some of them are a bit spotty and speckledy. So here's the deal. To make sure everything's fair and above board and we know whose sheep are which, I will work for you if you will give me all of the spotted and speckledy sheep and you can have all of the nice white fluffy ones. It's a deal, goes Laban. That's a brilliant idea. That's exactly what we'll do. And then he sends his own son out to the fields to take away all of the spotty and speckledy ones. And poor old Jacob has to start with nothing. It's no trouble, thinks Jacob. I know how to get spotty sheep. What you do is you put branches in front of the white ones as they're feeding and they'll produce spotty young. Now, this is not how it works. Any farmer will tell you that's not the way to get spotty sheep. But the awesome thing is this. God is with Jacob and he's going to bless him. And so, sure enough, all of a sudden, the sheep start producing spotty and speckledy young. And not just a few, but they produce loads and loads and loads of them. The nice thing about having God on your side is even if you do something kind of dumb, he's able to turn it to good. And that's what he does with Jacob. Soon Jacob has more sheep than Laban does. As soon as he sees that, Laban comes over and goes, wow, Jacob, look at all those spotty sheep. I bet you wish you hadn't chosen the white ones now. What are you talking about, says Jacob. I didn't choose the white ones, I chose the spotty ones. Oh no, goes Laban, I distinctly remember you wanted the white ones. Isn't that right, son? His son, who's there, looks up at him and goes, yes, Dad? That's right. See, even my son remembers. Fine, goes Jacob. No trouble. So he carries on. And all of a sudden, the spotty and speckledy sheep, well, there's not quite so many of them, because God is with Jacob. And soon, God's making sure that all of the sheep that are produced are white sheep. And God gives Jacob more white sheep than Laban has spotty sheep. As soon as he sees this, Laban comes over and goes, "Great news, Jacob! I've decided I'll let you have the spotty sheep after all." "What are you talking about?" goes Jacob. "You've just said I could have the white ones." "Ah, yes, but I know your heart was set on the spotty ones, so you can have them instead." God is teaching Jacob. You know, it's kind of like Jacob tricking his brother into paying a lot more for a bowl of soup than he should have done. He is now being tricked. And in the Bible it talks about God will treat us the way we treat other people. It says if we forgive others, God will forgive us. If we give to others, God will give to us. God is teaching Jacob what it feels like to be cheated so that Jacob can change. But even though it may be difficult to learn, God is still going to bless Jacob. And soon, the sheep are producing speckledy young again. And once again, Jacob ends up with even more sheep than Laban does. Laban sees this and comes over and goes, "Jacob, I've changed my mind. You can have the white ones." And Jacob goes, "What are you doing?" Jacob has started to learn that it's better to do things God's way and get blessed by him. But Laban hasn't learned a thing. You can't stop God from blessing somebody. And so soon the sheep are being produced that are white and they're losing spotty ones. And then Laban comes along and he changes the rules again. 10 times Laban changes the rules. But in the end, all that happens is Jacob gets more and more sheep and Laban gets less and less. You can't stop God from doing what he wants to do. In the end, the best way to live our lives is God's way. And Jacob's learnt that, and Laban hasn't. And in the Bible it says, God rebukes and disciplines us as a father does a much loved son.